Hey there, welcome to KMG Handmade. Today we'll be making the Travel Buddy Sling bag, and here's the one that we're making today. As you can see, this one has an expandable pocket in the front. You can put a collapsible water bottle in there, or you could put your phone in there, or anything that you need quick access to while you are traveling through an airport, train station, subway, whatever. It also has a tablet pocket here, so we got a little secure tab at the top. You can stick your iPad in there or your Kindle, anything that you want to have quick access to. It's got a nice little padded pocket in there as well. On the back side here, you're going to have another zipper pocket, large enough for a large smartphone, or you can put like your passport in there, or travel documents, anything like that that you want. On the inside, you have a built-in card slots and bill slat in the front wall of your pocket, and then on the back wall, you've got another zipper pocket. Everything is, you can see I'm wearing the bag, it's very easily accessible, and you've got a really nice wide pocket in here to put all of your other essentials that you'll need while you're traveling. So this is something that I designed specifically because I've been traveling a lot by airplane this year for my new job, and I wanted something that I could have everything that I'm going to need while I'm traveling, very easily accessible, wear it front or back, but when it's on the front, I can grab what I need and not losing anything out of it. But I'm completely hands-free as well because I typically am rolling a large check-in as well as a carry-on with me as well. So I really hope you enjoy this. You can make this with vinyl, as I did here, or faux leather. And this is a batik print on the pocket and the linings. I also used a water-resistant canvas in this. These type of materials I would recommend for an industrial machine. I'm sewing on a cylinder arm, and the edges are going to be bound on the inside for additional structure, but also it just gives a really nice finished look, and it's pretty easy to put together. It's a very easy curve. Gusset fits like a glove, so you don't have to worry about that. And but I would not recommend vinyl for a domestic machine. If you're going to use a domestic machine, please use quilting cottons, batiks, thinner weight materials, and make sure that all of your interfacings and any foam or fleece that you use for structure are out of that outside seam allowance. And you shouldn't have any problems. Testers all reported everything worked pretty well. So I really hope you enjoy making this bag. I have a couple other examples here if you'd like to see them. Here's another one that has a different shaped wing connector. It's kind of a cloud connector here on the top with a feather front flap. What I really like about this pattern is you can customize it to however you want to. So if you're making like a themed bag for spooky season, you could put bat wings on here, or one of my testers did a poison apple themed bag, which is going to be awesome. I love it. If you wanted to do one for the amusement parks, like maybe some ears or something like that on there, would be really cute. You can make this whatever you want. So kind of opens it up to some creativity. Here's another with using a themed print. And this one I actually used a wool felt, which I found kind of itchy. But it's sewed up beautifully. So really kind of play with your materials and your placement. It's a really neat bag to be able to feature those kind of things. Lastly, I'll show you this one. This one I made with vinyl and upholstery fabric. And then I took one of the geometric shapes off of my print, made a flower out of it, and put my logo right in the middle there. So have some fun while you're making this bag. I hope you enjoyed this, and let's get to it. And here we go. So first thing we're going to do is take our zipper pocket lining eye, and you're going to draw on your zipper box. I've already done so here, and as using the measurements given in the pattern. And then what you're going to do is place it on your H, back panel H, in the desired direction that you want your zipper to be on. So I'm making this for a lefty, for me. So if this is going to be the top of my bag, the zipper pocket is going to go on the left side, and my zipper is going to face up when it's closed. So it's going to close actually to the right on the back panel. For a righty, this is going to be your top. You're going to put your zipper pocket on this side, and you're going to close your zipper pull to the top here as well. So just wanted to give you that direction as we go. And it'll make more sense when we're putting the panels together, the exteriors and the lining pieces together. So I'm going to go ahead and sew down my marks. And this may be personal preference for you. If you prefer to only sew down your long lines, starting and stopping at the corners of the box, you can do that. Or if you prefer to sew all the way around, you can do that as well. I do like, personally, to just sew down the long edges. So I'm going to go ahead and snip those. And we'll do the other edge here. And I just want to place my needle before I let my foot down here, so I make sure I'm even with the other edge, so I have nice corners. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and snip those as well. And we're going to cut through that center, which I'll use my duckbills. Yes, I'm a lefty. I do these upside down. You can find left-handed duckbills. Let me know. But this typically works for me just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and snip down the center through all of the layers. And then I'm going to snip to the corner without going past my stitches. So I'm not actually going into the corner there where my marks are. I'm only going up to the end of my stitches. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this lining through. So I'm just going to press these, finger press them, and then we'll pull it through. Like so. If you're using quilting cotton and you have your press handy, you can go ahead and press these out so they're nice and flat. I do not have my press handy, and I'm using vinyl, so I don't want to use a hot iron on that. But I am going to pull this tight to the bottom and clip it, so I can get that edge a little cleaner. This side, I'm going to use a couple of clips just to hold it in place while I prepare my zipper. Okay. So I've got my zipper cut to size as given in the pattern. I'm going to go ahead and slide my pull on there as well. There we go. I also put 1/8 inch double-sided sticky tape on both of the long edges there, just to make sure that I can place it nicely in the center of my hole. Again, I'm doing this left-handed, so my pocket's going to be on the left-hand side. My zipper pull is going to be up. So this is where I'm going to be placing it here within that hole. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and remove those clips. My pull is going towards the top. And I'm going to remove my paper and place that in there. Actually, I want to move it down. So it's in the center of that hole. And that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to remove the paper from the other side and place it as well. And again, the sticky tape is just a really good method to hold it in place without pins. So if you don't want to pin your vinyl, use a little sticky tape. Okay, now that that's in there and centered and where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and top stitch around that box so that I can make sure that my zipper is in place. One of the things that I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave long threads and I'm going to pull them to the back to tie them off instead of doing a back stitch, and you just get a nice cleaner look that way. So here we go. Oh, that looks like my zipper is a little off. Let's just replace that a little bit. Just make sure it's all in the right spot. Don't forget to move your pole out of the way as you get near it so that you don't get kind of that hump as you sew around the edge. So I'm going to just slide that down to get around the edge. And my zipper, I'm going to pull that zipper a little bit closer just so I make sure that I'm catching the other side. And now I can open it up again. And closing it again. I'll try to link all of my materials and stuff in the description for you, but just quick heads up on what I'm using here. The vinyl, the purple vinyl is from Bodio. I love L&K stuff. I'm going to go past that first stitch that I did, but I'm not back stitching. I'm going to pull out and clip off my threads so that they're long enough to tie. And then I'm going to pull them through the back. The thread is from Wizardry Stitchery. It was part of the last sewing box that Lauren did at Mormino. And let's see. My zippers are from my Handmade Space. Zippers and pulls from Handmade Space. My batik lining I got at a shop that's no longer in business, so I'm not going to share that one, but I love this print. I think it's so pretty. And it's just kind of mesmerizing. I like it. So I'm just going to go ahead and tie that off nice and tight and snip it. And you could singe your ends just to make sure that they're not going to come apart, but I've never had that problem, so I'm just going to leave them. And then the last part is closing that pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and put the ends of my raw edges together. I'm going to flip this over. And what we're going to do is moving the back panel out of the way. I'm just going to start at that folded edge on the one side using the seam allowance given in the pattern. here you can back stitch. And we're just going to close that pocket all the way around. And just keep lifting your back panel. On the edge with the zipper, I do like to get as close to the zipper as possible, just to kind of reinforce that. And sometimes I can see I'm going through my zipper tape there as well. It just keeps everything nice and flat. And there we have it. Snipping off all my threads because I can't stand extra threads in my bag. But they're all over my floor. I'll sweep those up later. Okay, got my pocket in. Okay, next part is this. We're gonna do the strap connector. So I've already marked my center. I've put some double-sided sticky on there. We're gonna go ahead and peel that. This 3/8 inch stuff does not want to peel very well off the paper. And then we're gonna fold it to the center on both sides. This is your Q piece. Come on. To the center. All right, we've got both pieces folded to the center. I'm just gonna go ahead and top stitch down the long edges. And since I'm not going to see these raw corners anyway, I'm just going to continue across the bottom and back down the other side. And we'll go ahead and snip that. And we're going to go ahead and put the hardware on there as well. Fold the wrong sides together, and then we're going to baste that end shut just to keep it in place. There we have it. We have a connector, and that is going to go to the side for now, and we're going to work on the topping connector piece. So in the pattern, you'll notice there are several different shapes that you can choose for your top connector piece. I'm going with the oval shape on this bag to kind of fit with the circular shapes in the print. So that's what I'm doing. These are your O pieces. You're going to need 2 of those. You'll also need your P piece. That is the facing that you're going to create your hidden connector. So I have already measured out my 1.5 inch box here on my P connector, centering it in the connector. And actually I should have done this, the top line across the center line, but it's not really going to matter. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, but in the pattern, it shows to do it against your top line of your box should be centered, and then your box should come down from there because you're going to fold this over. Mine's just going to come up a little bit, but we're going to end up trimming that anyway, so not a big deal. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this. Sorry. We're going to center P face down on O face up, and then we're going to go ahead and stitch that box for the facing. And here you definitely can use back stitching if you want to. Oh, there goes the pin somewhere on the base of my machine. And I'm just going to go ahead and follow my lines all the way around on this one. Seems pretty straightforward. All right. And then we are also going to snip down the center of that connector, just like the back pocket, and to the ends. Sorry, to the corners, not going through your stitching. Close as you can. Don't clip your stitches. We're going to go ahead and pull that through. So we're just shoving that down through the hole. And it out like that. I just want to check fit here as well. It is going to be a nice snug fit for me. Ta-da! Just like that. So, I did not top stitch around that connector piece. You can if you want to. I prefer it plain with the rivets instead to hold that, you know, kind of in place, because I'm going to pull this facing piece down anyway, so that if you were to take a peek at that hole for any reason, you would see that facing instead of, you know, nothing. So that's why I don't like to top stitch around it. But what we are going to do is, now that I've pulled that facing down, I'm going to pull the fabric of the O-piece back, and we're just going to stitch as close as we can to the bottom of that connector. So that's what's really going to hold it together, is the facing. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch across that line. I'm going to stitch kind of a box through my facing and connector along the edges of that connector. It gives me a nice little spot to put those rivets, and everything is held in place. So I'm going to go ahead and snip all my extra threads. And you can see that's in there nice and tight, but I am going to add my rivets here so that it is very secure. You can either do this now, or you can wait until you've put on your back side. So you can either hide the backs of your rivets if you're using like the single type, like that you get at Tandy Leather, or if you're using a double rivet, you can go through both, because then it's going to show up as a decorative on the back side of your piece here. But I'm going to go ahead and do it through both, and that also gives it even a little bit more stability. So I'm going to place my hardware down towards the straight edge here, just to keep it out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and clip around the edges so everything is nice and flush. And I'm going to go ahead and sew around the edge using the seam allowance given in the pattern. You may have noticed I've already drawn mine on. It just makes it much easier to follow that line with my foot than to rely on like a seam guide on the side. We're just going to follow the mark. Okay. On any curved edges that you're doing, if you're going to be turning those inside out, just snip into them, but not into your stitches. That'll help it lay flat when you turn it inside out. Okay, now we're going to turn this inside out and push out those edges, and it helps to use clips. Fill in those curves. And once we've got that all turned out and clipped, we're going to go ahead and top stitch that along the edge using the seam allowance in the pattern. As you can see, my cup overflows. I've got a lot on the floor. So, all right. So I've got that laid out. I'm also just gonna stitch right across the bottom edge as well, just to keep those edges nice and clean and together. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and go all the way around the edge. Really make sure you're rolling out those edges. This one kind of folded in a little bit there to maintain the shape. And we're going to go ahead and clip that. Snip all the threads. There we go. We've got our top flap done, and I'm going to go ahead and put my hole punches in there and set my rivets. So I know I should be using a ruler for this, but I typically eyeball these. So I'm going to set them in right about there. And right about there. Not bad. And I'm going to go ahead and use my rivets here. I'm just going to put them in, but I will actually press them later when I'm doing all the other rivets. It's one less machine to have out at the time. So there we go. Pressed in. Looks pretty good. Oops, sorry. Here we go. And this is going to go on the back of my bag. All right, so we are going to grab your back panel piece that you had previously, and we're going to center that. I've got my center mark here. I have my center mark here at the top. I'm going to face this up so I can actually see the hardware, and we're going to center it on that edge and clip it in place. Again, make sure you can see your hardware on this piece. Your zipper tab is facing up towards this end, whether you put it on this side for a right-hander or this side for a left-hander. And we're going to go ahead and base that to the top. And honestly, I am just going right along the edge of the fabric with this. So you're getting like maybe an 1/8 inch, because I want those stitches to be hidden within the final binding. There we go. Just lost my D-ring. Okay, so here's the back panel so far. Do here, since I'm going to be sewing this directly to the bag on this version instead of sewing it all the way down and then having this open in the center, I am going to go ahead and top stitch. My hole is here. I'm going to top stitch the long sides here to about a 1/4 inch from where my rivet's gonna go, right? And then I'm going to turn it and go across. And back down the other side. So I'm just going to finish. And I need maybe a half a stitch there. It's kind of light to the edge. Okay. On both ends, I'm going to do this. And why am I doing this? Well, normally you would be top stitching all the way down on both sides. You'll have a finished end there, right? And you're going to put your hardware there between the rivet and the end of the bag where you're going to sew it to the side of the bag. So I want that end finished before I put my hardware on. That makes sense? So I'm going to do the same thing on this side as well. It's about 1/4 inch from my rivet hole. And I need a half a stitch there. There we go. Okay. Okay, back to where we were before. I'm going to go ahead and place this where I want it to go. And I want it like that. So my rivet holes are equal distance from the side, given the measurements in the pattern. I'm going to go ahead and clip those in place. And then I'm going to sew down, across, between those rivet holes to attach it to the bag. So again, this is going to be below your pocket, but above that curve. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull those threads through and tie them off in the back again. So again, this is just a variation on what I provided in the pattern. Normally you would sew that, shoot, wrong one. That one, there we go. Sew the strap first, all the way down, and then it would be loose. But I want this one actually attached to the bag. It's just going to give a little extra stability as well if you're carrying heavier things, that you're not putting the pressure on that one rivet to hold your D-ring in place. So I'm going to go ahead and just tie that off. And we'll go ahead and snip that as well. What's more awkward than a left-hander using scissors. I don't know. Okay, so now that I've got this piece attached, I'm going to go ahead and add my D-ring connectors on there as well. And I'm going to baste this edge in place. And now I can cut off that extra. Kristen, why didn't you cut this piece to the same width? Well, because I wanted just a little extra wiggle room in case I made a mistake, because people make mistakes. So you get a little bit of wiggle room there. If you want to cut that piece to the same width and you're perfect, you go right ahead. More power to you. I will not claim to be perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that side as well. Ta-da! Okay, the last step is putting in our rivets. But before we do that, we need our foam piece. So you'll notice in the pattern, I don't use fusible foam or I don't use fusible foam. I use just regular foam, and I like to float my pieces between my panels. So on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure that that's centered all the way around. So it's not going to be my seam allowance when we connect these later. And I'm going to go ahead and just punch through that hole again through my foam on both sides. And we're going to connect that into place through the panel and the foam. And the foam is just going to give it a little bit of extra stability as well. So I'll place those rivets in there. And snap it on the back. Ooh, that's a tight one. And do the same on this side. And make sure that my foam is, in fact, centered in my piece. Snap that one on there as well. All right, and now since I'm going to be pressing these rivets, I'm also going to press these ones. So I'll be right back and we'll move on to the next part. Okay, we're back, and the next piece is going to be the lining back assembly panel. And basically this is a repeat of the exterior panel with the zipper pocket. So you're gonna go ahead and install your zipper pocket just like you did on the back panel. Same measurements, same placement. This time though, you're going to flip your zipper pull in the opposite direction so that when your pieces are back to back, zipper pulls are both facing up in the same direction. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this part since we're just repeating what we just did on the back, and then we'll reconvene for putting those two pieces together. Stay with me. Okay, here I am sewing down both sides of the long edges of the zipper box and cutting out the center, flipping it through, pressing it flat, and then here I've got my zipper pull on my zipper. The zipper pull is going to be facing towards the top of the bag, so for a left-hander it's going to go left, for a right-hander it'll go right. We're top stitching around that box. And then I'm pulling the threads through to tie them off in the back. And now we're going to close that pocket just around the open edges. Okay, starting on page 12 in the pattern, we're going to go ahead and take the card slot panel R. And since I'm using an industrial machine, I did interface this piece and to show you my markings as well. So I've already marked my piece with the measurements given in the pattern from the top down. So I'm going to go ahead and just fold those as indicated, and you'll see a valley fold, and then you'll see a mountain fold. So your mountain folds are the ones that come up over the top. The valleys go in between, hence the name. And we're going to go ahead and top stitch all of the mountain folds. I'm not doing it on this one, but I have done it on previous bags just to give this a little extra trim. What you can do is cut a 1-inch wide strip of your vinyl that is matching your exterior or your raw edge fabric that's called for in the pattern to the width of this piece and fold it over the top. And it gives you a nice little trim piece here that really kind of differentiates, hey, this is where the wallet part starts. So if you want to have, a little bit of separation or a little, something extra in your bag, you can do that. But the whole design of this piece is to hide all of your cards. And this is going to be on the front side of the panel. So you're going to have access to it from your left or right hand, depending on which way you wear your bag for your zipper. So you'll be able to pull those cards out as needed, but they're going to be nice and snug and secure behind that panel. So that's why we're doing that. I'm going to go ahead and just top stitch those mountain folds, and we'll zip through that really quick. And then we'll move on. All right, here we go. Okay, so I did not quite get that side piece in there, so I am going to go back through. Just going to take that a little bit closer. There we go, got it. All right, so now we've got our center panel in. I'm going to go ahead and fold the seam allowance towards the ends, towards the short ends, and we're going to go ahead and sew through all of those layers here. I'm going to do it from this side, it'll be a little bit easier. Just top stitching that in place along the edge. and repeat on the other side. Now, I am going to trim off that little bit on the bottom there, and you should only end up with maybe a 1/2 inch extra there along the bottom if your folds and everything are correct. So we're just going to go ahead and trim that piece up, and then we're going to move on to the front panel. Stick with me. Okay, so that's all trimmed up. I am just making sure that it matches the size of my back panel, which it does. And when these are together, this will be the inside of your bag with your pocket facing out. This pocket facing out the opposite way. So if you're a left-hander, this is what it will look like. If you are a right-hander, it will be exactly the opposite as what you see here. So this is going to face this way. This one's going to face, you get what I'm saying. It's they're going to be together, back of the bag, so that you can access everything from your dominant hand side. So now that we have all those, I'm going to go ahead and pull all of the pieces for the front panel, and we'll get started on that. Okay, we're going to do the tablet secure tab next, and this is piece F and a piece of gross grain ribbon. I've already singed the ends so they won't fray, and we're going to go ahead and place a piece of double-sided sticky down the middle of that piece there on your F piece, and match the short ends with your ribbon. If you have a pretty side of your ribbon, like it's a printed side of your ribbon, you're going to place that face down inside here. So yeah, face down when you put that in there. And then what you're going to do is take the paper off the edge, and we're going to go ahead and fold that over the center and just hold that in place on both sides. So you're kind of trapping that ribbon in between. So this is going to give it just a little, even more stability for your snaps when you put your snaps in. And it's going to give you a little bit of a decorative piece at the end of your tab once we're all done. Okay, so I am all taped up there. The next part we're going to do is take this end of the ribbon and along the pretty side of your vinyl or your raw edge, if you're using cork, go ahead and clip that to the other short end. And we're going to go ahead and sew those ends together. Just across the edge here. Following me so far? Awesome. Okay. So now your pretty side, if you have a pretty side, is on the inside of this. We're going to flip this inside out so that you end up having a seam here at the top and you've got a raw edge at the bottom. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, starting at the raw edge, we're just going to kind of push that up towards the seamed edge. You can see that here. And it gives us a little bit of a roll of that ribbon towards the end. And that's what we want. So all I'm going to do now is just top stitch this all the way around to finish this piece. And then we'll go ahead and install our snaps to make this a functional closing secure tab for your tablet.
That's it. Ta-da! Just like that. I'm going to wait to place my holes until after I've already attached this to the bag, just so that we make sure that we place it in the correct spot. Generally speaking, you're going to have about a 1/2 inch of fabric here on the raw edge, and that's going to be in the seam on your pocket. This is going to come up and through a loop and come back over, and you're going to snap it right about there. So in general, your hole is going to go maybe 1/4 inch above your ribbon here, and then you're going to match it up to the back and place the other piece of your snap. So that's how you make the tablet secure tab. Here we go. I have my lining and I have my exterior for this pocket. I chose to use my lining fabric as my feature for that pocket, so it kind of really pops on the front of the bag. And before I went ahead and, before I sew these, I went ahead and stitched on my logo so that it will end up in the center of the bag about 2 inches from the bottom. So still going to be out of the way of the flap that's going to come over, still visible there as well, and predominant on the bag. So there we go. So what we're going to do is go ahead and take your exterior piece and your lining piece. Water resistant canvas has a front and a back. This one is the smoother side, so that's the front. I'm going to go ahead and place that right side down, or pretty sides together, and just clip it across the top. And we're going to go ahead and these should be even Stevens. I'm going to go ahead and sew these across the top, giving the seam allowance in the pattern. And then the next step is to flip it right sides out. So we're going to press that edge with our fingers, rolling that edge over. I'm going to go ahead and just put a couple of clips in to hold it in place. And then I'm going to top stitch just the top edge. All right, there we go, front pocket. Next part is we're going to take the C side pieces. I have a left C and a right C. And I'm going to go ahead and align those on the diagonal edge, matching the bottom corners. And then we're going to sew that together using the seam allowance given in the pattern. You will have some extra at the top, and that's okay. We want that. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same on this side, keeping that pocket nice and flat so that everything aligns up nicely. Okay. My pockets did not quite align when I flipped them. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim off that extra at the edge of the seam allowance. There we go. Ta-da, like that. All right, so there's your front expandable pocket. We are not going to top stitch these sides just yet. We're going to go ahead and set that to the side for now. Okay, next part we're going to do is the flap. So I'm going to grab my flap pieces here, and I'm doing the rounded version flap. So I did put Decoville Light because I'm using a quilting or a batik fabric for that. I wanted to give it a little extra heft. I'm not using any interfacing on this one just because I'm already using water resistant canvas. Don't think I really need it. So I'm going to go ahead and put these right sides together, pretty sides together. Your flap is also a great place for a logo if you want to put your logo on here before you sew these together, or if you're using like one of those metal prong logos, you could put that through there as well before you sew these together. That's an option, which I've also done on some of my bags, and I will show you those in a different video. So I'm just gonna clip these edges together lightly. I've already kind of drawn it on my seam allowance, and I'm gonna go ahead and stitch it together, starting at the straight edge. Grandmother's scissors here. Seem to be liking my bobbin thread. And I'm going to go ahead and snip those corners off and just snip around the curve like we did with the top wing connector, just to get a nicer edge when I turn it right side out. This is especially important if you're using anything like a vinyl for your connector piece, or your flat piece, sorry. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this right side out. Now, another thing that you could do, as long as you're not using vinyl, would be wait to insert your Decoville until after you've turned it right side out and kind of save yourself from some of the wrinkles. And then just insert it and press it. But in the interest of time, I did it first. So we're going to just go ahead and press that all the way out. It should fit nicely around that Decoville, which it does. Nice. And I'm going to go ahead and top stitch around the finished edge. Actually, I also want to just stitch along the top line as well. To close that for when we attach it to the panel. Okay, now we're going to put together this pocket. And to do that, you're going to need one of your slip pocket B pieces. So I've got one here. I do recommend quilting cotton for this particular piece. You're going to have 3 of them. And with that and the layers of this all put together, you're going to end up with like 5 layers of fabric before you put on your gusset. Just to keep everything less bulky, use quilting cotton. Do not use water resistant or waterproof canvas, even if you're using a industrial machine, because that outside edge is going to get particularly thick, especially where the seams come together on the side. So with that, what we're doing with this pocket here is along the straight edge of your B piece, you are going to align the straight corners of your C pieces. But see that little extra of that seam allowance there at the top of the pocket? We're going to go ahead and roll that back towards the outside seam when we're clipping it. So I'm going to go ahead and align this with the corner along that top edge and clip it in place. With that seam allowance pushed towards the outside so that I get a nice finished edge there. And then I'm just going to clip it down the sides as well. Okay, so it's in place there. We're going to do the same on the other side. And what's going to happen is this is going to create that expandable pocket there in the center with that finished edge. And what we're going to do next is sew down the seam between C and D to attach that to the liner. So I'm going to go ahead and align the corners and fold that seam allowance over, finishing off that edge. And you want to clip the outside first and then towards the inside so that you make sure that the distance for your pocket is correct, because your flap is going to fit right in between here. Okay, ta-da, like so. And I'm not going to attach this just yet, but I am going to find the center of that pocket and just clip it in place. Actually, another thing I'm going to do is make sure that my seam allowance is facing toward all the way down. The CD seam here is facing towards the outside edge. So you're going to have to like manipulate it a little bit so that you can feel that it's facing towards that outside edge. And then we're going to go ahead and sew that along the edge. Like so. And I'm going to do the same on the other side, making sure that that seam allowance is facing the correct way towards the outside edge. There's my pocket. Ta-da! My seam allowance is sewn to the outside, towards the outside edge, giving me that nice finished edge there as well. So now what I want to do is just I'm going to fold these sides in a little bit on both sides, just to kind of make them even and centered, right? So that I can center that bottom edge and base that down. So I want my logo front center. right? So you're gonna have a little bit of a fold on either side as this spreads out. And I'm gonna go ahead and baste across the bottom. Right? Okay. So next piece to add is your flap. The flap is going to be right in the center of your panels, just above your pocket. So we're going to center it above the pocket, like so. And I'm going to baste that across in place as well. I just realized I skipped a small step. You should stitch across these top corners before top stitching down the sides, but I failed to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And I noticed that I ended up like one of my C panels is just a little taller than the other, so I'm going to trim that down, but I'm going to go ahead and flip this over so I know how much I'm going to have to trim. So I'm going to go ahead and just baste that across the top. All the way across, even across my flap. There. That part's in place. And then we're also going to add the tablet secure tab. So this is going to, let's see, when this comes up, we want it to come up with a ribbon side up. So ribbon side down in the center is where we want it. So go ahead and place that ribbon side down in the center and baste that end in as well. That's your raw edge of your tablet secure tab. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and trim this up a little bit, just so it's even all the way across. There we go. And there we have our front pocket piece. Now we're just gonna make this into a full panel. So to do that, I'm gonna take my next B piece and I'm gonna place it right side down over the entire assembly here. And we're going to go ahead and sew it across the top. I'm going to just snip those corners of the seam allowance as well out of the way. It's going to help reduce the bulk later when we are attaching it to the gusset. So we're going to turn this right side out, flip your secure tab and your flap up, and we're going to top stitch all the way across that pocket. So that's reinforcing where your flap is, where the secure tab is, catching that again in the seam allowance as well. Ta-da! Okay. I realize I forgot a step here of trimming the corners. You have extra corner on your C piece. We're going to go ahead and baste this all the way around through all of the layers, and then we'll trim it. So that way we're catching all of the edges of your panel. And then we can trim off that corner, and we'll attach this piece to the final part of the exterior front. I want to make sure And I see I also need to trim a little bit at the end. So the reason I'm going to do this from the back side is so I can see if there's anything I'm going to need to trim as well. So I'm just going to clip these together along the edges. Ta-da! And then we're not basting 3 times either. So here we go. From the top corner, just along the edges, just like we did on the back panel. We're catching all the important parts of that pocket in there. Across the bottom. And to the other edge. So you can see now with the seam along the bottom here where I need to trim, and along the side. Oh, it looks like I just missed that edge there. I'm just gonna go make sure I catch that edge. There we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim this up, and then we're gonna attach this to the final part of the front panel, which would be the backing. Here we go. And a little bit of an edge here as well. Ta-da! Here we go. There's our pocket. And now we're going to place that with this piece. So I've got my final B panel. I have my A top panel, and I'm going to go ahead and sew that, the straight edges together, using the seam allowance given in the pattern. And prior to top stitching this, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. Right. I just want to check panel size as well and make sure we're all good. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Before I top stitch this, I'm going to take my last piece of foam for my panels, and I'm just going to center that in the back. Right there. I might trim the corners a little bit because looks like I didn't quite get there, but I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to top stitch through the foam as well. So now that it's centered in my piece there, and it's attached through the top stitching, it's going to float between my panels quite easily without having to use any kind of adhesive spray or anything like that. So I might actually give it a second decorative top stitch here. Why not? Just 2 lines of stitching, kind of fun. Okay. Now what we're going to do is attach the pocket to that panel. So I'm going to go ahead and align my bottom corners. And actually we want to, it's going to align with the top seam, or the seam that between your A and B piece as well. So I'm going to just clip that there. That's why I clip those corners, because this little edge corner here is going to be quite thick if you don't. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And right there. Oh, I didn't clip that thread. And we're going to align the bottom and the corners. And actually, while we're at it, we can add our lining piece as well. So I know that this is going to sit on me in the front like this, which means my wallet piece should be on this edge, where the same as my zipper is going to go. So I have access to my pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and clip that to the other piece. Actually, no, I'm not. Not just yet, because we still need to do this, the tab loop. And I don't want to put my rivets through my lining piece. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to just go ahead and base this to the bottom here as well. Just right next to our, or right inside our previous stitches, to make sure that it catches the bottom piece. I want to make sure, yes, I have that. There we go. Now we have a tablet pocket on there as well. Ta-da! Fit your iPad in there if you have a 11-inch iPad or a Kindle. You can place that in there as well. And that secure tab is going to go through that loop at the top and just keep that in place. So if you bend over, nothing's going to fall out. Pretty cool, huh? Awesome. All right. So next part is the loop. We're going to do the loop next. And that is, you're just going to take your little loop tab piece, which is piece E, fold it to the center. This should be a raw edge piece. So cork, vinyl, leather would work okay too. It is going to be a little bit narrow, so you may want a narrow foot when you're sewing it. And the whole idea is just to give it enough space for that secure tab to feed underneath it and flip back over and snap. So I am just going to move these clippies out of the way. So we're going to fold it into fourths, just like a regular strap. And again, it's going to be narrow. I'm just going to add a couple of clips here just to get her going. And then I'm only sewing down the folded edge where they come together. Oh, okay, let's try this again. So I'm going to sew along just the folded edge there. That's it. All right, and I'm just gonna snip this edge here. Now these edges, the side edges, are gonna be raw. If you want, you can use edge paint there just to finish them off. or even a Sharpie marker works too, just to, so that you don't see those lighter colored backings. If you're using a vinyl, you could do that too. I don't really care, and this is for me, so I'm not going to do it. So with that being said, now we're going to set these pieces where they're going to go with rivets, and we're going to put our snaps in, both in the pocket, the flap, and the secure tab. So to do that, I want this to be at least a half an inch, probably more like 3/4 an inch away from the top, which puts it about 1 inch from the top of the tablet sleeve. But you also want to make sure that you've got enough space for that tablet to come over and snap, right? So fold that, or put your loop in between your tablet secure tab and fold it over. And then we want to mark it centered on either side. So I'm going to go ahead and use, did have a marking pen. I do. Here we go. I'm going to use a silver pen and just mark where my holes are going to go and where the holes are going to go underneath as well. Like so. And with that, we're going to use our hole punch. And then we're going to place our rivets. And that's going to go through the foam as well, holding that in place. We're also going to do the ends of the loop. And then I'm going to grab my rivets. You can use Chicago screws here as well if you don't have rivets or a press. Both of these items are available on Amazon if you need them quick. I actually got my press on Amazon as well, and it was pretty reasonable. I want to say I paid maybe $65 for it. That was quite a few years ago, but wasn't too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and set those in. So the foam is also going to give you a little bit of extra security for those rivets, but you could also add a piece of Peltex if you wanted to, or an extra piece of vinyl. Your rivets, you don't want them any longer than just poking out of the edge of your fabric through the layers. So that's where we want that. I'm going to go ahead and press those. And you can't see it, it's right to the side here, but I am going to press those with my machine, my hand press. There we go. Those are all in there. It's going through the foam as well. And now we're going to mark the holes for snaps. So I'm going to go ahead and mark. So this one, I know I need to make sure that it is clearing the loop and it's not in my ribbon. So I'm going to put it just over the top of my ribbon, right about there in the center. I'm going to hole punch that and mark the other side where it's going to meet the snap. And we're going to just press that down again, and I'm going to use my marking tool right through that hole to mark where it's going to snap on the other side. Now I'm going to take that out, and we will hole punch through that mark as well. There we go. On my flap, I want my snap to be centered in line with my secure tab as well. And I wanted about a 1/2 inch from the edge, the bottom edge. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that centered, 1/2 inch from the bottom edge. And I'm gonna hole punch that. And then what I'm gonna do, giving it a little bit of slack here, right? Making sure that my pocket is nice and flat. I'm gonna give the flap a little bit of slack so that it's not pulling over the top of my pocket. I'm gonna go ahead and mark where that meets. So this is gonna be my hole where I'm gonna place one of my snaps for when I don't have anything in my pocket that needs to be expanded. Maybe it's something flat or it's simply empty. I can hold that pocket closed and flat against the bag. But I'm also gonna add a hole punch straight up from there, a 1/2 inch from the top edge of the pocket. And what that will do is allow me to still close my pocket when I have stuff in it. So if I put a water bottle, small water bottle in there, I'll still be able to close that with my snap. So I'm gonna have one snap there and one snap there. So I'm gonna go off camera and install my snaps, and then we'll get back and put the lining side on this one. And then we're ready to do a gusset. Okay, I have installed my snaps. For this, I used spring snaps. It comes in a nice little package like this with the tools to install. I got them on Amazon. It was pretty inexpensive, and they are so stinking easy to install. All you need is a hammer. So I recommended that. They do have installation instructions in the package as well. So I've got my snap here. I have a snap here for when it's expanded. I have my snap here for my tablet that I can easily put it in, take it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and snap this down flat. Oh, so good. And we're gonna go ahead and put on the inside panel. So again, this side is going to be where my zipper is gonna go on my gusset because I'm wearing it across my body like this from right shoulder to left hip. That's where I want my zipper, which means my wallet is gonna be on that same edge. So I'm gonna go ahead and match up my centers, clip it all the way around, and baste it together so that we have 2 finished panels. And this is that area where I'm talking about it's going to get thick if you don't cut your seam allowance or your interfacing and stabilizer out of your seam allowance, because you've got 2 competing seams here that are coming together, and then you're going to also be sewing a gusset to it, which is another 2 layers. So make sure that you are getting all of that foam out of your seam allowance. And here you can see I did not quite get it out of my seam allowance. I'm going to cut it out here. So that I don't have problems later. All of these edges together. And again, we're just clipping that nice and tight so that the foam is floating in the center. Looks like I did trim that bottom just slightly smaller on the front. So I'm going to go ahead and just let it nice and loose there. I am going to end up trimming a little bit from this bottom edge here. It won't be very noticeable when everything is put together, but it will fit properly in the gusset. So there we go. Got it all clipped around. I'm going to go ahead and sew this together. Again, just right along the edges. We want to stay within that final seam allowance with any of our basting stitches. Okay, it's Gusset time. I just took a quick break to take the dog for a walk and was very surprised at the Wisconsin weather. We're having a heat wave. So, a little sweaty, but let's get going. So what we're going to do is take our K pieces next and your longer zipper. And I've put on double-sided sticky tape on both sides of my zipper tape there. And what we're going to do is just center that zipper on the K panels with a little overhanging on either end along the edges. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and pop that on there like so. So this is going to be face down, zipper teeth down on your exterior piece, right? And then I'm also going to put on the lining piece since I've got it all taped up. Feeling for the good side, and you want the right side down. So we're going to match up the fabric on the end and pop that side on there as well. I'm going to do one side and then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So here we go. Using the seam allowance given in the pattern, go ahead and sew that together. Oh, my snips are getting really dull. Just gonna fold that back. Fold that one back as well. And I'm just going to clip along the edge here. Just keep it together. Not sewing the outer edges just yet. Just want to keep them even. There we go. And then we're going to do the other side as well. And we're just going to align. There goes my lining piece. Align the edge even with your other side. Okay. Let me grab that lining. There we go. Hit my head in the process. And we're going to flip it over and put the lining side along the back as well, right side down. Right side down. And again, we're aligning the pieces so they're the same. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and sew down this side using the seam allowance in the pattern. And just pressing crossing that one out straight as well. Let's go ahead and snip those. And snip these ends too. Press that out. All right, so here we go. Got my gusset. What I'm going to do is go ahead and top stitch down both sides of the zipper, but I'm not doing across the ends just yet. So you want that top stitching just along the edge of your fabric. So it should be about 1/8 of an inch. Along your fabric edge. Oh, that's getting a little warm. I'm going to sew in the same direction. Since I'm using vinyl, I don't want it to stretch or twist. So I'm going to go ahead and sew down the same direction as I did on the other side. There we go. All right, here's the fun part. We're going to put the last zipper pull on. So I'm going to go ahead and place that on the ends. If you have a zipper pull helper and you need it, use it. Some people use a fork. I typically have pretty good luck just sliding them on, but of course I say that and then I'll have a problem. Here we go. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just all the way up to the end there. And then I'll bring it back a bit. I'm just going to tack right across the zipper tape there. So my pull doesn't come off while I do the next part. And I'm going to go ahead and do that on both ends. It is okay to leave the extra tape, zipper tape, in the sides of your seams. It just gives it a little bit of extra strength as well, to make sure that when you're turning that bag inside out, you're not straining your zipper and losing your pull off of the end. So that's another reason why we tack that zipper shut. Again, I'm just going to remove my clips here real quick, and I'm going to slide. Oh, bless it. Drop the foam. Piece of my foam inside the edge there, and clip it back shut again. And I am pushing it towards the center so it's tight against that seam.
swear I need a net under my machine to catch all of the stuff that I drop off of there. I don't know about you, but I'm clumsy and it happens a lot. So let's do the other side here as well. I'm just gonna push that right up to the seam. Pushing that foam in there. This is just going to give it a little bit more stability in the sides, a little more volume so that your bag's not smushed against your body either. So that's why I like using foam for gussets. And I'm just going to tack down these sides on both sides, going the same direction again. Foam is in the center. So that I don't get any twisting. Now you see, if I were to start on this end and go this way, this corner will kind of like lift up, kind of like this one is. So I'm going to go in the same direction. So I'm going to sew from the opposite side of my foot. And you can see what's going on. So I'm just going to trim that almost a little longer on this side. Snip those as well. All right, last thing I'm going to do is just sew across those short ends as well. Let's pull that zipper pull out of the way. And here we go. Same on this side. That's it. There's my opening for my zipper gusset. And now to put the rest of my gusset together, I'm going to take my J pieces and we're going to connect them to my K pieces. Now that you got that on there, we're also going to place the short end of the foam centered on that as well. And we're going to stitch that in place. Just over your previous stitches. Okay. Last one, we're going to put the pretty side of your water resistant canvas with the pretty side of your water resistant canvas, or quilting cotton, your lining fabric, I should say. And we're going to sew that one in place right over those same stitches. So you're making a sandwich. Or if you're worried about, you know, vinyl that you're going over too many times with the same stitch line, just go right next to it so that you're not weakening the integrity of the vinyl. Okay, so now we've got a little sandwich there. Ta-da! There we go. And now we got to do the other end. So we're going to take the other short end to the other short end and repeat the process. Again, the foam is going on the exterior side as well. Just for consistency's sake, you're going to make sure that it's centered. And baste that into your other stitches. And then lining pretty side to the other side here of your sandwich. I'm going to go ahead and sew that in place as well. Now, one thing that I'm going to do here on the corners of these seam allowances is just going to snip into those corners, just like so, just to help reduce that bulk for when we bind it. So I'm going to flip it around here this way and do the same thing. There we go. So I'm just taking off those corners there. You'll notice that I'm not top stitching this yet. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to make sure that my gusset is flush all the way around. If I'm going to have any extra, like bubbles, we're going to put them and hide them in those seams. So here we go. I'm going to turn this right side out. Please don't tell me that I twisted this. Did I? No, I did not. But I did. Okay, so now is where we're going to clip the edges together. So we're going to sandwich that foam right in the middle. And to do that, we want wrong sides together for everything, right? Like so. And what I'm going to do, I want to find the center. So I'm going to pull this tight so that my seams are matched up, right? I'm going to go ahead and mark the center of the gusset part here, just clipping within just the edge here. Or you can use a marking pen if you prefer. You can do that too. And I want to just make sure that I'm pulling this nice and tight at the bottom. And I want to find the centers there as well. Because I'm going to start clipping from the centers back to the seams, if that makes sense. That will ensure that any extra I have end at the seams instead of in the middle of my gusset. So now I'm going to match up those clip marks with my foam in between, and I'm going to clip it right there. And then I'm just going to kind of work my way up on both sides to the zipper panel. Just keeping everything nice and straight without stretching my vinyl. If you have a stretchy vinyl, you know, don't want to pull on it as you're doing this part because you end up with big bubbles. Okay, so I have one side done there. I'm going to flip it around the other way, and I'm going to do the other side on the other side of the gusset. to the other seam. And this is how you keep everything nice and straight. And then I'm going to flip it inside out, or right side out, I guess. And we're going to repeat the process, one side and then the other side. So, from the center, up the sides, and we're going to sew in the same direction as well. From that center mark at the bottom of the gusset, up towards the zipper gusset. There's another one. And here I just need to like sneak my foam over just a little bit more centered. Because I pushed it when I was clipping the other side. Pushed it kind of towards the outside. There we go. Ta-da! Just like that. So you can see I might have a little bit of a bubble here at this end. That just means that when I top stitch this, it's just going to bring it in just a little bit. But it's going to allow me to have a nice straight gusset all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and starting from my center mark, just here, I am going to just basting the edges. And you can do this in a longer stitch if you prefer, or you can hand baste it if you want to. I've never been good at hand sewing, so I leave it to the machines. But I want to go all the way to the edge here and just meet up with the stitching, I guess on my K piece, my zipper piece. I'm going to go ahead and trim that, and I'm just going to edge that corner there so it's even. And now I'm going to turn it on the other side of the gusset. So this side is sewn. I'm going to turn it on the other side of the gusset here from that center piece and go back towards me. So we're going in the same direction always, towards you and towards that seam. Of course you're going towards you, right? Because that's the only way your sewing machine sews. Am I right? Yeah. And we're just catching those edges. And I'm just going to snip that corner as well. There we go, even. Okay, so I've got one side here, and I have one side here that's finished. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and flip this inside out. And we're going to do the same process to finish that stitch line to the other end. So you're sewing from the inside out. And I'm just going to trim that end there so I have it nice and even. There we go. And let's finish this up on the other side. I know there's lots of bag makers that don't like using gussets. It's one of my favorite things to do, honestly, because once you figure out how to make them fit perfectly, it's just such a satisfying process. One perfect circle. All right, so now we're just gonna top stitch along those seams there, and you can see, because I sewed from the center out. Oh, it looks like I just missed that little piece there. Just catch that here. I don't want holes. All right, since I sewed from the inside out, everything is really nice and flat, no bubbles, no folds or anything like that. We want to make sure that everything just looks really nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and move that zipper to the center, and we're gonna go ahead and top stitch these sides along these seams. Easier to do without my flatbed on there, but we'll make do. Let's do the other one. And you could do a double stitch line here as well if you want, for decorative purposes. You don't have to. You can do a single, but if you want to, you can do a double. Totally up to you. Too many clips. And that's how they end up on my floor. Okay, let's get that out of there. There we go. And you can see, because I clipped those corners of my seam allowance at this seam, these seams aren't super thick, which is awesome, because we're going to attach that to the front and back panels. And it's going to be close to where that other seam is on the front panel. Not exactly on it, so that's good. It'll be kind of nested. But you don't want all that extra bulk there, so make sure you clip those seam allowances there too. Okay, since we already found our center pieces, or center parts on both the front, the top, and the bottom, we need to find the sides as well so that we can attach this to our panels. So I'm going to go ahead and place our center marks together, and we're going to find the side center marks. So we're going to clip. I'm going to go ahead and stretch this out so that I can mark or clip the side as well. And again, just the corners within the seam allowance so that it's not going to show when you put your final bag together. We also don't want to clip your stitches and have that come apart. So there we go. We've got our centers on our gusset. I'm going to go ahead and turn this
inside out. And we're going to go ahead and put it on our panels. So it doesn't really matter which panel you attach it to first. If you prefer to do the back side first, you can do the back side first, or you can do the front side. But you do want to know where your zipper is going to be opening. So zipper pull at the top, right? If this bag is going to be worn this way, I want my zipper on this edge so I have access to all my pockets. My zipper pull towards the top. So this side is going to be my center point. Same thing on the back panel. If you're doing it on the back panel first, you want your zipper pocket on the same side as your zipper gusset. So I'm going to go ahead and mark where that center is. I'm going to match up the other centers, and then I'm going to clip it around. Already I can tell this is going to be a really nice fit without gapping or needing to snip the corners. It just eases into the corners really nicely. And I think that's probably where some people have issues with gussets, is the fit. And what really helps with that is it's really accurate measuring of seam allowances when you are connecting your K&J pieces. And if you do those correctly, it should be the exact size that you're going to need it without having to snip it around the edges. Some people like to use staples here. I don't know. I've always been a clips person myself. And I go over this edge a couple of times before I bind it, so we're always checking to make sure fit is good before we bind. So here we go, right into the corners. I'm gonna use every clip I got in here. And more than half of them will end up on the floor as we take them off, but no worries. That's okay. I just want to make sure it stays put. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Thing of beauty. All right, you can see zipper's on this side. Pocket is on this side where I can get at it. Right? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and sew this on around. And what we're going to do is just take the edge of our foot inside our basting stitch. And sew with the gusset side up. Give it a little extra tail here. I tend to start on the zipper gusset side. You can start wherever you want to, but this is where I start. I'm putting my foot just inside that stitch line. And then as I go around, I just want to make sure I am catching the gusset and the panel evenly all the way around. when you get to the corners, you do want to kind of lift your foot, take a stitch, lift your foot. Make sure that the fabric underneath your foot is nice and flat. You don't want that bunched. And always, you just want to make sure that whatever's under your foot is nice and flat. So as we're working our way around here, I'm just paying attention to what's under my needle presently. As you're going around this front piece, you may want to unsnap your secure tab and just, you know, kind of move it down out of the way. You're still going to have plenty of space where your tab is, but sometimes the top of that secure tab will kind of push its way up towards the top of the seam, and you don't want to catch it with your stitches. So I just move it up and out of the way. Corner. And there's that thick corner there where the seam is for the pocket, so that's why I say make sure you're cutting that out of your seam allowance. All right. I think I just want to get along this edge, the bottom edge, just in a little bit tighter because of the seam of that pocket. So I'm just going to go right around that corner again. Just pulling it in even a little tighter than the previous line of stitching. Make sure that I'm catching everything that's under there. To the other corner. Okay, let's take a peek. Snip my threads. Okay, and I'm also going to just trim those corners flush. Took that one a little tight. Bulk out of the corners, makes it easier to bind as well. All right, let's turn her out and see what it looks like. Oh, aren't you pretty? I have a friend that's gonna go gaga over this purple. Oh, you are pretty. That is the start of a really beautiful bag. So I'm happy with all my seams. I am not seeing any basting stitches in my edges, which is great. Oop. One little stray there, loose thread, but that's okay. That was just hanging on. Oh, look at that. Now we're gonna do the other side. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip it back around and show you placement for the other side. So this is the top of our bag. This is the top of our bag. Oh, just like that. We are going to want to open that zipper on the side so that we can turn the bag inside out or right side out when we're done. I am going to clip any extra threads I see here before we get started because I don't want to be trying to pull those out later. That all looks pretty good. All right. I'm going to match up my center part points again, and we're going to go ahead and clip this around and sew it. So I'm going to go ahead and speed through this part for you. So that we can move on to the final stages here. Around you. So let's go ahead and turn it inside out and check our work. So, tip for you if you have arthritis in your hands or you have trouble pushing or turning a bag inside out that you are going to need to bind. Because you're going to have to push it out one time, check it, and then push it back in and do it again all over again once it's bound. But instead of pulling your material through, you want to push. Another thing that can help if you're using a vinyl is with your hair dryer on a low setting, just shoot some air in there and it kind of warms up the material a little bit for you to help turn it inside out. Oh, she's a beaut. I'm going to poke out all those corners.
at you. You're so cute. I am just pinching along my seams. Just kind of really turn those out. Look how pretty she is. She's a little wrinkly from the push-in. But again, warm hair dryer, that helps. Or you can use your iron on your ironing pad and warm up the ironing pad and then just rub your bag on the ironing pad so you're not actually touching it with your iron. But that helps as well. A little finger press helps as well. Just like that. Oh my goodness. This is a keeper for sure. I love it. All right, ta-da! So the last thing we need to do is bind it and make the strap. And because I'm going to use a black binding, I am going to be changing out my thread to black as well. So I'm going to do the strap first, and then we'll go back and bind the bag and then attach the strap. So, but I do want to show you the strap pieces. So depending on your size or the size that you want to make this bag for someone else, there are some suggestions for length of pieces in the pattern on page 21. You're going to have a 1.5 inch finished top strap, like so. I'm using webbing. And you're going to have a 1 inch wide finished bottom strap. And between these, you're going to have a little connector piece that connects those two together. So you're going to go ahead and cut your 2 connector pieces. I use Decaville Light in the centers to help prevent stretching. Also, it gives you a little bit of more stability in that piece itself when you're connecting these pieces together. Cut your straps to the length that you want. So for example, this one is going to be your adjustable strap, your 1 inch strap. So that one could be a tad longer if you want to, so that you can make it longer or shorter, depending on the person that's wearing it. It may be shorter than what you're seeing in the pattern instructions as far as finished length. But again, this is one where you're going to kind of want to go, okay, this is about how much I need when I'm wearing this bag. Where do I want it? So for this one, the top is going to loop through your top connector piece. So you are going to want to have about 3 inches at the top just to connect the bag, and then the rest of your strap. So I would recommend singeing your ends. I thought I did on this one and I did not. Here we go. If you're using one. If you're using regular quilting cotton, you're making a strap like you always make a strap. You're gonna multiply by 4. So your length times 4, is that right? Yes. So that you can fold it to the center if you're using a quilting cotton material. If you're using a raw edge material, you're gonna have, you know, if it's a 1.5 inch strap finish, you're gonna have 3 inches, right, of width for your raw edge strap. And then you're gonna fold them to the center just like you normally would a regular old strap. So, but for this one, we're gonna use webbing. So I can quickly show you how to do the connector piece. And that's the important part, because the rest of it's pretty standard, is putting on a strap. So I'm gonna go ahead and place some sticky tape down the center of both pieces on the wrong side. They don't have to be perfect. There we go. And I'm gonna remove the paper from one side. And here is how this strap goes together. Super, very simple. We are gonna put the 1.5 inch strap in until it curves toward the bottom, right? So when it curves in, you're gonna take your
1-inch strap and take that end and place it, butt it up to the other one there, right? Okay. Now you can take your other piece, take your paper off, and align it with the other side. Ta-da! That's simple. Now we're going to stitch around the outside. And you may want to have 2 rows of stitching on this to help secure it as well. You could also put in rivets here. I would put 1 in the center at the bottom, 2 at the top, so that it goes through all of the layers and holds it in place really well. I'm going to start my stitches at the bottom center here. You could start at the top center if you wanted to, but I'm going to start at the bottom center. I'm going to make sure that everything is aligned. And we're going to go just around the outer edge at about 1/8 of an inch, catching both sides. Take your time doing this. It's no race. You just want to make sure that you're catching both pieces in your connector. Okay, I did get both pieces in my connector on both sides, and I could do a second stitch around here, but I think I'm going to put rivets in instead. And I'm going to go ahead and just trim these up just really nice and even along the edges. So I'm going to take that point off the corners as well, just so it has a nice curve to it. Catching both sides. Here we go. And I just want to make sure that it's just really even. Along both sides. And I'll go back through with a little edge paint there as well, around the edges. And I'm also just going to take just over the top, just cutting that nice and even. I feel like my stitches caught there on the edge and pulled it, but we're good. Okay, so there we go. Strap, she's done. I'm gonna go ahead and put my hardware on the end that is going to get clipped. And what we're gonna do is take the 1-inch end and feed it up through your slide adjuster, down through the slide adjuster, over the center bar. I'm going to put on my hook with the hardware facing the top of the connector piece. And we're gonna come back around and give a little bit of slack in that slide adjuster. And I'm gonna go back up one side, the farthest or the closest side to me, and then down again over that center bar to catch that center bar. Ta-da, like that. And I'm gonna go ahead and hole punch that and put a rivet in there, or you can sew a box if you don't want to use a rivet. I'm gonna go ahead and rivet it. So that is my preferred strap method. And again, you are only connecting the inside parts, not the part over the top, okay? Because you want that to slide. So make sure you don't catch that in your hole punch. And we will do this one, this one, and I will tighten that or press that with my my press here in a minute when I attach this to my bag. The other part I'm going to do on the other end is I'm going to figure out how much do I need to fold over to get it around that rectangle ring that I have at the top of my bag. One of the things that you could do here to finish off your webbing is if you wanted to take a little piece of raw edge fabric and put it over that end and sew it on, which actually I think I will do. That'll just help keep it from fraying as well, and you don't have to worry about your strap coming apart. So I will do that part off camera, and then we'll come back and do the binding next, and the last part we'll do is attach the strap to the bag. So stay tuned. Okay, I have swapped out my thread color for black, and I wrapped my binding, and I put my overlap on the bottom edge of the panel so that it's not in a thicker area like where the connectors are or anything like that. And you're not going to see it on when you open the bag under the zipper. So that's where we're going to start with the gusset side up. We're going to start with the gusset side up. see the other side.
Okay, so we're all bound, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn this inside out now and attach my strap. So again, if you do have some issues with turning out bags, just hit this with a medium hair dryer, or a hair dryer on medium heat, just to give it a little bit of give, and it will turn out easier for you. It's always better to push rather than pull. So I'm gonna try to push my corners in first. It is a bit of a tight fit. There we go. And you wanna be real careful with any pressure you're putting around your zippers, but again, that's why we left the zippers a little bit long, so, or the tape a little bit long, so that it would be protected within that seam allowance on the side. And we're gonna push out all the little corners. Oh, how cute are you? Just give it a good press. I can't remember the name of this vinyl, but it was like a Concord grape or something like that. It's so pretty. And there we have it. There's your bag. And now we can attach the strap. And I did end up putting a bit of the vinyl on the end of my webbing, just so that I wasn't going to get any frays or anything like that going forward. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and clip this to the bottom. And again, you want your strap clip on the ring that's closest to your zipper for when you're wearing it. And then this is gonna go over your shoulder like so. And then you can either place this in so that your tab is facing up, or you can flip it over the other way so that your tab is facing down. And then you're gonna see the rivets here. I actually kind of like it with the tab up, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna place it where I want to here. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw a couple of clips on that. I did pre-punch my holes for my rivets here in the trim, and now I'm just gonna use that as a guide to punch it through the other side of my webbing. Like so. And then I can install my rivets. And press them. And then we have a completed bag. I'm going to go ahead and press. And I'm going to go back and press the one that I put underneath my adjustment strap there as well. And there we have it. Completed travel buddy bag. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and please be sure to check out all of the other videos for this bag on YouTube. I will link them all below in the description. Our tester team really had a great time making this bag, and I hope you do too. So please be sure to share your finished makes on the Facebook group, or by tagging me on Instagram or TikTok at KMGhandmade. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.